Hi, everybody. Hello, how are you all? We're going to get started. I'm conscious it's probably the first session after lunch, so I hope everybody had a bit of a breather. The sun came out for about 2 minutes, and I think it's gone again, but that's okay. You are all very welcome. Thanks for joining us. I've seen a really, really jam-packed agenda over the last day or two, so I'm sure everybody's head is spinning with GenAI and other components. So hopefully we can try and bring a number of things together today in this panel over the next hour. So thanks for spending time with us. I'm Fiona Carney. I'm the COO for Microsoft across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And today with me, I've got three fantastic speakers who are going to join us. I have Baldo from McKinsey. We have Remko, who's joining us from Eneco, and then Yannic from ASML, who've all been on different journeys around AI all up, but specifically GenAI, which is going to be the focus of our conversation today. I was just thinking this morning, it's in my role as COO, we do a lot of work around go-to-market. So how are we actually bringing our solution areas to market with our customers and our partners? We spend a lot of time on marketing, so I own the marketing function, and also how we run our business internally and ensure that all our sellers, which we've got about 12,000 across EMEA, are enabled to work with our partners and with our customers every day. And so obviously Copilot for us has been a really big game changer in the last year. But instead of talking about productivity and many other things, which we will talk about in the next hour, I was thinking this morning, it's actually World Mental Health Day today. I don't know if everybody knew that. And I was thinking a little bit about how we're also using GenAI for really positive purposes to try and help people with their mental health, particularly when we're all living such busy lives. And I know myself, even yesterday with the team, we were using GenAI and leveraging Copilot to try and make sure that we take a breather. So asking it, can you give me a little 5-minute meditation to do every now and then? Or sharing things across the team that are tips and tricks for keeping ourselves healthy and our well-being going. So one of the things I personally love about GenAI is how it's helping us to think about different things and bringing our teams together in a world where everything is so hectic. So the format for today, we're going to have 3 sessions by our 3 guest speakers, 5 minutes each, which we'll try and keep to time. There's a lot of great content. And then we're going to join together as 4 people up on stage for a panel. And really the intent is to think about a few core elements when we think about GenAI. And we are going to specifically focus in on that element of AI, knowing that there is so much broader elements to AI in general. We're going to talk a little bit about how you get started. So many people in the room are obviously, either getting started or many will be already on your journey with GenAI. But we're going to talk a little bit about how do you actually think about picking use cases for GenAI? What's the best approach for that? What are some of the things that we've seen and our customers and partners have seen as they're picking the starting point for GenAI? Then we're going to talk a little bit about adoption. So how do you actually move into the adoption phase with GenAI? How do you measure the impact of GenAI and how are we thinking about that? And what are some of the ancillary things that are coming up, whether that's regulatory, whether that's ethical, whether that's security? There's a number of components that we need to take into account. And so the governance around AI once you have it up and going. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some other elements in terms of lessons learned and real live use cases. So what actually have some of our panelists seen? What is working for customers and for their own companies? And how can we demonstrate the value and the benefit as we all go on this journey together? So I'm going to start with inviting Baldo up to get started with your few slides, and we'll take it from there. Thanks, everybody.
The clicker. Okay, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us. I was not sure how many people we were going to have, but I'm really glad we had this kind of turnout. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. As Fiona said, I'm Baldo Alonso. I'm a partner in McKinsey in BeNeLux, and I lead our QuantumBlack team, which is basically the artificial intelligence arm or body within McKinsey. We have over 1,000 colleagues globally, specifically dedicated to data science, data engineering, technical solutions, user design also as part of those solutions. And in essence, right, if I focus about what Fiona and the Microsoft team asked us to report on today a little bit, it's about the state of adoption of GenAI in particular in 2024. And I think I know it's clear for everyone that there has been a great surge in the adoption of GenAI over the last year and a half. You read the news, and pretty much every day or every week, you see several posts, right, of like companies that are like just jumping into GenAI in an actually a serious way. And actually that surge of the usage of GenAI is something that we have seen at the global level. You know, we've done research to track a little bit what is that level of adoption in large companies, at least in one single function. And what we've seen is that actually the last year has been like quite important in developing a surge in the usage of GenAI, for sure, but that has actually helped push the development also of AI in general, which we think actually is critically important because the two of them will need to work in tandem. This adoption of GenAI is something that we have seen across industries and also across regions. There are actually some regions like in APAC, basically, in Asia Pacific and Greater China, where that jump has been larger, but it is something that we consistently observe across all regions in the world, which is really good and encouraging. Now, if we take a look at North America and Europe in particular, and we try to dig a little bit deeper into what it means to adopt GenAI, that is when we start seeing some actual differences. And that's also part of the message and the call to action that we wanted to bring to the forum today. If we look at like the amount of spend that on average like European companies across like different industries are putting into GenAI, we are lagging behind let's say we could say a comparable region as the US is. And it doesn't matter if we look at this from external AI spending or overall IT spending. There is like roughly like a 45 to 70% gap between the AI spend in the US and the one that we have in Europe. And that is something that I think from a point of view of like Europe competitiveness is something that we will all need to solve together in the following years. And it is not only about like, oh, let's pour money into GenAI, right? We will need to actually go and look at like what are the ways in which we can deploy GenAI in a smart way for sure. But we will need to work on areas like attracting and retaining AI talent. You know, a very striking figure that I got to learn over the last weeks is that 22% of AI talent in the world comes from Europe, has been educated in European universities. Only 14% of the worldwide pool of AI experts works in Europe. So we need to do something to make sure that there are opportunities for all of us, for all of you, to work here in Europe, right? And we need more and better of those. We need to make sure that the transformations that companies go for are really end-to-end. You know, it's good to experiment. We need to take them to the next stage, to actually drive end-to-end transformations that redefine how we do business. We will need to help actually also those companies as well, help them in navigating the regulation. You know, with the AI coming up, of course that's a good thing and it is necessary, but like when we have researched this and we have asked companies like, how do you feel about it? Like the outstanding majority of them, 80% of them, like they struggle to clearly understand the consequences. And we think this can actually lead to some form of also paralysis because you're not really certain about what that could mean for you. So, you know, again, the picture that I'm trying to paint is, I think, enthusiastic because there is a lot of activity in GenAI in Europe. We want more, and we will need to make a push over the following years to make that happen. So, you know, now it's time for us to take a stand and push for it in each and every one of our companies. Thank you.
Thank you. You can hear me? Yes? Okay. My name is Remko Strik. I work for Eneco, one of the largest electricity companies in the Netherlands. And I'm going to talk to you about how we adopt and how we try to take value out of GenAI. Are there people in the room here who are from Rotterdam? I see 1, 2. That's great. 3, actually. Now, what makes Rotterdam people... Actually, I'm not from Rotterdam. I'm from Naaldwijk, which is close to Rotterdam. But what makes people from Rotterdam quite specific? We have a harbor and hardworking people. Everybody's working hard. But they're very practical people. So me, as a sort of a practical guy, working for one of the largest electricity companies, how do you look at, let's say, a trend, a hyped trend of GenAI? How do you sort of translate it then into what a company needs without, let's say, a lot of fuss? So how do you then translate it in a practical way? And I want to explain to you how we look at GenAI and how we can try to cluster and make sense out of this trend and to actually capture that value. And I have only one slide, so this is the slide. So we basically look at opportunities from GenAI through three lenses. So first of all, buy. Secondly, build. And thirdly, use. And I will just go through one by one and explain you a few use cases how we do that. And basically all the GenAI opportunities, the way we look at it, falls in one of these 3 categories. Now, first of all, buy. Now, there is, of course, the normal buy-build decision making, but we strongly believe that with, let's say, partners like Microsoft, but also Snowflake and other companies, all the vendors which you see here, they really can help you accelerating your GenAI journey. All these applications have been thought of very well, have added a lot of use cases, and they are being brought to you. Not always freely, but they are brought to you, and you can really accelerate taking the value out of GenAI through these vendors. What we do is we also have partners with it, like Capgemini, for example. They are very important for us to make sure that if we get a technology, that we also discover in the right way what the use cases are. So just to give you an example, we are now in the midst of implementing Microsoft Dynamics in our call center, etc., etc. And it was running. And coincidentally, I came across that just was released Copilot on the call center application. And the project team was not yet aware of that. But with the help of Capgemini and also Microsoft, we were just able to switch it just on, extend our project team and scope. And within, let's say, days, weeks, we were able to unlock quite a big feature within Microsoft Copilot, within Microsoft Dynamics. And that's also one of these examples. One of the examples which you see here is Microsoft Dynamics is connected with our knowledge base. Okay, we need to do a bit of improving there, but we could immediately see that for agents, with automated email responses, that they didn't need to craft it themselves anymore, and that literally reduced 30%. So when we started that endeavor, with this implementation, that use case was actually unknown. So I think that's one thing. So look at your vendors, choose the right vendors who have on their roadmap GenAI or AI capabilities under the hood. They are coming to you freely and you can start using it today. From a very niche one, like Colibra, they have a GenAI automated documentation feature that can help the developers today already. So that's built. Unfortunately, sometimes it is quite specific use case, which is needed, very often also industry focused, and then you need to build it. I strongly believe that now we do a lot of building, but that will eventually move into the buy suite. For example, the speech to text in our case, we have Genesis as call center application that is not connected directly with Microsoft Dynamics. So we needed to build a pipeline from speech to text to GenAI, summary, topic analysis, and feeding it back into Microsoft Dynamics. So we customized, we needed to build it ourselves. But also that was a big benefit. These summaries, agents didn't need to do the summaries, 1 minute per call. Now, we got a lot of calls, so that in that way we were able to invest in the time ourselves, but we do that very carefully and only if we really think that can make the impact. And then the third pillar is use, and I think that's really the true, let's say, transformational element in GenAI. Let's say people like marketeers, channel managers, developers in our situation, they actually can use GenAI themselves. So what we did trainings per function group, and we explained them what the possibilities of GenAI were, and let them think how it could help in their daily work. For example, we are still in the midst, unfortunately, it takes a bit of a long time, a migration from Oracle to Snowflake. And all the code from Oracle needed to be converted into Snowflake code. And when we did this training, one of these guys said, yeah, but can ChatGPT not help out with that? And now that was done in, let's say, in a few hours. And it literally saved the project team 200 hours in migration time. So I think the democratization of GenAI is, especially in the last part, unlocking creativity and making sure that people in the day-to-day operation can take advantage of that. But you do need to make sure that you train the people in a specific way, because GenAI for a marketeer is different than for a business analyst and is different from the MT, for example, the management team. So if you think about how we do that in a Rotterdam sort of no-nonsense way, think about buy, build, and use. So that's the way we approach it. Thanks. And now Yannic from ASML.
Thank you, Remko. Okay, good afternoon. My friends always tell me, Yannic, you work with such innovative, cool solutions. And then this morning, Sarah opened the event on the main stage, indicating AI is mainstream. And I dare to say that we indeed currently live in a world where AI has already become widely adopted. We drive in cars with AI, or we probably navigated here using an app with AI. As Baldo indicated, journalists give significant attention to AI. And participating in the event today, I have the feeling that the CEOs and executives of our organizations are quite interested in AI. Who has used a form of AI today? An app, a solution. Amazing. And that's maybe also because AI is not new. The first AI systems were established in the 1950s. And since then, researchers have pursued the holy grail of creating an AI that can mimic, understand, and aid humans. So, if the holy grail is to create an AI that can mimic human behavior, understand human interactions, or even aid in human activities, is it then nice to have an AI also look like a human? My name is Yannic Suurmeijer. I'm an IT architect at ASML. And today I would like to introduce you to Noah, our first digital colleague at ASML. And I'm wondering, Noah, if you maybe would like to say hi and participate in the World Summit AI today.
I am super excited. I cannot wait. I love AI.
So, if there are three things that you take away from this story, I would like it to be a user, use case, and building blocks. Then you maybe think, okay, Yannic, thank you for kicking open some open doors, but I'm going to challenge you on these. Because, for instance, Noah was developed mainly with the user in mind. And how much time do we spend with the users of our actual software solutions? How many time do we spend sitting next to our users and asking, what works for you? What doesn't work? What's your feedback? I think we can all improve there. And Noah was developed purposefully to give a wow experience, to have a positive user experience and to stimulate the adoption of GenAI applications in our organization. And Noah gave a lot of traction. So we are now getting requests, for instance, to help him with onboarding, provide trainings, or maybe the organization can call in sick to Noah instead of being on the line waiting for the service contractor to help out. That's then nice. You have a nice digital avatar. So what? So for the last years, we have been working on a cognitive search solution that is helping our engineers help issues resolve faster. At ASML, we develop high-quality machines for the semiconductor industry. But it's not only about delivering high-quality machines. It's also about delivering high performance. Because the moment there is an issue with one of our machines, manufacturing stops and it costs money. It can easily be hundreds of thousands of euros or even up to millions. So a solution that helps our engineers to pinpoint issues faster, but also come up with a resolution, is extremely valuable. At the moment, we have 1,700 engineers working with this cognitive solution. And what we're currently looking at is combining this cognitive solution that mainly evolves about natural language processing and intelligent search with the LLM and the GenAI capabilities of NOAA. Because how cool would it be if we have a digital coworker by your side while trying to resolve an issue for a customer, providing you with relevant knowledge, providing you with probable resolutions. We do this by establishing a central platform. We have a multi-platform strategy, also multi-cloud platform, but these use cases we predominantly leverage from Azure. And what we try to do from our IT organization is provide this central foundation on which we can make reusable building blocks available. So think reusable. Why is that? With a cloud foundation, things can become complex quite fast. Think about networking, authentication, or for instance, managing your Kubernetes cluster. And by providing this foundation centrally, we don't duplicate capabilities, but we also help our organization to deliver new use cases faster. And we do that by also providing reusable components on our platform, because there are a lot of similarities across these use cases. Maybe you want speech-to-text conversion, or you need monitoring, or logging. Tap into the same data sources. The moment this is already available in our shop, customers for the business are happy to make use of it. So, to summarize, think user, create a solution that appeals to your users. Think use case, dare to say no. Think of what is valuable for your organization. And then think reusable. So make your components in a way that it's not only serving your current use case, but also future use cases for other domains in your organization. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if you want to join us up on stage. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I think we need to bring the chairs up.
Sit a bit here, otherwise people might not be able to see us.
Okay.
It's moving stuff around.
Self-service with the chairs.
Yeah.
We're doing everything here. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, super. So hopefully everyone, I like the format, the short, sharp. That's good. Hopefully everybody has a few takeaways from some of those really good examples. And also just the different perspective from consulting into actually customers who are working in the business. So really good to hear. So we're going to just have an open discussion about a few things, as I mentioned earlier. So I might actually start with you, Remko.
Yeah.
When we think about some of the areas in terms of, use cases and areas where GenAI is having the most impact, particularly in your organization, how have you thought about that and how did you come up with some of those use cases?
Yeah. Actually, it was not that easy because it is particularly when it is a new technology, it's quite difficult to identify use cases. So that's sort of the first starting point. And I think what I also hear, it's quite difficult to really pinpoint where can GenAI help. But okay, if you look how we did that, is as I said with the buy part, so buy, build, use. The buy part we basically relied particularly also on our vendors. So because they have implemented it already quite at other companies. So why reinvent the wheel? So and then ask the vendors like Capgemini or Microsoft. You bring in this technology, where do you think we should roll it out first? And in our situation, obviously, that was a call center. Then also the ROI there is quite quickly found. if you look at the build part, what we did is we looked at our OPEX. So very simple. So we went to the controller. Where is our OPEX moving towards? And are there areas of OPEX where we can build use cases around and to see if we can then bring that OPEX down? And that was mainly in our area, mainly on the marketing spend. So the content creation, for example. And we have set ourselves a target that for the coming year, we want to slice that with 35%. So in that sense, follow the money. That's basically what I say. And then for the use phase, that's much more difficult because you need to bring the capabilities to the people who then need to find out where the impact lays. So that's the most uncertain one. But that is also the lowest investment part, and therefore maybe also the highest return on investment. So we look at it through three lenses.
Different lenses. And it's interesting, I know there's been a lot of different studies done, obviously in the last 6 to 12 months, but certainly customer service seems to be one of the first verticals that's really getting a lot of traction. Marketing is another, obviously, because there's a lot of content and opportunity there. And also where we're seeing a lot of use cases coming up is actually in the legal function, because of, obviously, again, so much content which can be condensed, summarized, and of course needs to be checked. But I think what we've really seen with a lot of our customers is there's decisions around, do you look at the function? Do you look at the persona? Do you then, of course, think about the industry? So which is the vertical in which you want to go? And I really like your point about follow the money, because in the end of the day, cost savings is going to be one, not the only, but one of the considerations.
And I think maybe to add to that, so indeed in the call center area, but the question is, why is it there? Why is the benefit there then probably the biggest or quite high? Because it's a uniform, let's say if you have 100 people working, and if you can increase the productivity with, let's say, 10%, that's easier to get to the financial benefits out of it. And so if my productivity goes up with 10%, for a Yannic of 10%, that's much more difficult to capitalize that. So I think if you look at the call center environment, it's a uniform process with different people, and therefore the benefits there are easier to capitalize, not only productivity, because productivity, that's only one. But the question is, how can you capitalize productivity in reducing your OPEX?
And I think, speaking of ROI, maybe we'll come to you, Yannic, now. I know certainly for us, again, just in terms of real life examples, our sellers are saving 90 minutes a week at the moment, given using GenAI in some of their tools and systems. But again, the question is, what happens that 90 minutes? Is there a longer lunch break taken? Is it being used for doing more of the same? Is it being used for more creative value-add work? And I think there's some of the things that we're all trying to explore. So Yannic, when it comes to GenAI applications in your business, how are you thinking about the ones that have the highest ROI? And can you tell us a little bit about how you're approaching that?
Yeah, so one of the examples, which I also touched upon in the presentation, is a cognitive search solution that helps our engineers provide resolutions faster. So what this solution does, it helps navigate vast amounts of documentation. You can imagine we have thousands and thousands of work instructions, technical documents, but there is also a lot of tribal knowledge in most large enterprise organizations. Think of the SharePoint sites or the OneNotes, or that email of your colleague last year where he pointed you into subsection B to find that root cause. So this cognitive search, it taps into all those repositories. Engineers are provided with the opportunity to give a problem description. Potential root causes are then ranked based on how likely it is that it may be the resolution, and then also how to implement that resolution is provided. What we notice from the 1,700 engineers that currently use it is that they do not want to work without the solution anymore. And it's maybe a bit of time saved from each of those engineers, and then you can say 90 minutes here, 90 minutes there. But what if it's not only finding that resolution 90 minutes earlier, but also having the resolution implemented in the manufacturing line 90 minutes earlier? That is where the real savings are. Hence, we're scaling this solution to 10,000 people this year, and it's definitely one of the most valuable cases we have at the company.
And I do think many companies and many customers are at that point where they're after maybe piloting GenAI, and maybe they've piloted in a function or with a group of individuals in the organization, and now it's the kind of jumping off point. Do they scale? Do they not? What kind of measurement and return have they seen? So maybe, Baldo, just on that, when you think about all the work you're doing as McKinsey with customers, what are some of the metrics or measures of success that customers are looking for and working on?
So in essence, we typically think about that in like three buckets, right? Like there is one bucket which is on the adoption, and that is critical. We need to know if we deploy a GenAI or AI solution, like what is the level of adoption that is taken, to which degree like the users are adhering to the best practices for making the most out of that use case. And that is absolutely essential to have a pulse on that like the minute after you launch a solution, so that then you can actually guide your change management efforts, and you know if something is not working, you can actually deploy corrective actions like super quickly. The next set of metrics is those are like leading impact metrics, which are, it's still not business financial impact, but those are like leading metrics. For example, back to the example of the call center, a leading metric there would be what is the level of customer satisfaction that we can extract from the voice recordings, and therefore after the analysis of those recordings as a transcript, like what is that level of customer satisfaction? That is a leading metric for what will turn the lagging metric that will come later down the line, which is like financial impact. Like, is that call center actually achieving more sales? But you need to actually go through these three steps of like adoption, leading, and lagging metrics, and have a very strong pulse of on them as quickly as possible, so that you can create the virtuous feedback loop, and not just like launching a solution and wait to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think measurement is something that everybody really needs to focus on at the beginning when they're thinking about their use cases, so you can actually think about what do we want to see as results, what would be success for us, and then how do you keep the governance in place. So maybe that leads us on a little bit to adoption of AI. So let's say you've gotten to the stage where you've chosen some of your key use cases, as many of us are, and they will evolve. What are some of the things, and maybe Remko, I'll come to you, when you think about adoption within the organization, you're a large organization across multiple geographies, etc. What are some of the things that you've done to try and help people get used to GenAI and, share and adopt it in a way that has been successful from a change management perspective?
Yeah, so as I said, let's say on the use part, so what we did quite quickly already in the start is that we brought external expertise in. So to train a number of colleagues who really could understand what GenAI could help for people, let's say, in our company. So we have about 4,000 people, and what does it mean for them? And because we found that we needed to make sure that they knew what the capabilities were, what the possibilities are, and then follow a training program to make sure that they understand how they can use it in the daily work. And what we have seen is that it sort of unlocks creativity from people. And we also are rating these kind of trainings, and they have the highest ratings of all, because they can really translate it into the daily operation and that in the daily work. So I think that's quite a big cultural shift. From a workforce perspective, what we do believe is that with AI and GenAI, particularly also AI, that it also actually changes the work, what people actually do. For example, data scientists, the data scientists of today will do other work than data scientists in 2 to 3 years from now, or maybe even quicker. So that also means something for these people, uncertainty, that we need to give them perspective, and make sure that we hire the right people who are adaptable to these kind of changes, which will certainly come.
I know when it comes to change management, certainly we kind of talk a lot about customer zero. So what is it like to be customer zero ourselves in Microsoft? And some of the things that have really worked, and this is not necessarily rocket science. I think in any change management you need to be mindful, but having champs in place, role modeling, so making sure that the leaders are using GenAI. I don't think there's a meeting I go into now where people don't have record on and Copilot, because it's made our lives so much easier in terms of transcripts, notes, follow-up. It's saving us so much time. So I think that role modeling, but also people taking the time to identify where can this be useful, has been really helpful for us. And then skilling, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a while, is absolutely critical, because I think if you don't have a sustainable skilling strategy in place, there can be quite a bit of fear in the organization, and you need to make sure that people are being brought along on the journey. Yeah. But maybe, Yannic, from your side, in terms of adoption and change management, any learnings from what you've been doing in ASML?
Yeah, so for instance, what we're starting now is a pilot group for Copilot. So we are also starting with Microsoft Office 365 Copilot. But we do that not with the whole organization in one go, but we have specifically selected key users within the organization for them to try out a solution, that we collect feedback, and around the feedback that we collect, the insights, how is it used? How is it also used in line with the governance of our own organization? We try to, as Remko indicates, give the trainings and also the handles to the rest of the organization to then adopt these solutions, but in a proper way. Yeah.
So training, focus on training and making sure people have access to that in a way that's sustainable.
Yeah. First getting the experience ourselves and then bringing it out to the broader organization.
Yeah, to others.
And I could say from our end, what we have seen is like, clearly any AI transformation is not just a technology transformation, right? It's like there is so much behind. But with GenAI, like those are very often like change management transformations. That's what you're doing. Because if you think about it, with traditional AI, is deterministic. So at the end of the day, you may need to teach the business how it works, what it means, but like you're getting an answer, and that answer is crunched through basically a set of algorithms, and if you have the same input data, you will have the same output answer. But one of the differences with GenAI is that actually, like, you may ask the question again tomorrow, and it will give you like a slightly different answer. And you need to, of course, you need to set up the right guardrail so that answer that you get is still valid. But at the same time, you also need to teach the organization how to accept that the answer that they're getting is gonna change, right? Even if the inputs are the same, and that is not obvious for some organizations to accept and to live with that.
Yeah, and to grasp. And so again, maybe just in the context of McKinsey and big global organization with many customers, obviously another big topic that many of us are talking about is the ethical considerations, the regulatory considerations, other elements that are really important for this. How have you been managing it, or how are you seeing customers manage it in the landscape, and what's important for them to think about?
Yeah, well, what we have realized, right, in the many implementations of GenAI that we have done in the past is that, like, with GenAI in particular, like, regulatory and legal and ethics are not an afterthought. They're not just part of the steering committee that manages the initiative. They need to be embedded into the team that is shaping that initiative. You need to have like legal people embedded from the get-go so that they can tell you, they can guide you, they can also understand really well what is it that what you're trying to do with this GenAI initiative, like what is it trying to do? And they can inform you on the right guardrails, and they can also like get up to speed themselves on what could be the implications on the go or no-go areas along the way. They need to be plugged in like from the beginning. The same with ethics, and the same with like the regulatory colleagues. That's and yes, especially when you do this for the first time in an organization, there is a lot of churn, right? It's like it's lengthy discussions, but all of that churn is just necessary, because otherwise, like, that tool will not see the light of the next day. And I'm sure, Yannic, you in deploying your knowledge management solution, I could actually be curious how you navigated that on your end as well.
Yeah, also to start small. So we have various types of systems, and we deployed the solution first for one type of system to also the engineering domain that was providing main support for that type of system. We got feedback, and what we also monitored indeed was the user statistics. Don't they just start using it and that it then decreases? No, they consistently kept leveraging the solution, and the actual demand came to us when we had provided first version with trainings how to leverage it. Other domains asked us, oh, but now it's there for the NXT. Can it be there for the NXT? Can it also be there for our domain? And that's how the solution has expanded over the years.
Yeah.
I think it's good to hear some of those examples. I know, especially in Microsoft, we have a lot of governance around AI, with governance committees set up, as many of you may have in your own organizations. And we also have ethical AI frameworks that we use. So things like transparency, inclusiveness, security, elements that everybody needs to consider is really important for people to try and think about as you're going through this journey as well. And I'm sure you're seeing that with your customers. So maybe, Yannic, if we talk a little bit about partnerships. So I know, certainly from a Microsoft perspective, we're a partner-led organization. We work with thousands of partners that are all critically important to us and to our customers. How have you thought about partnership as you've gone through some of your implementations?
Yeah, we work with many incredible partners. And then, for instance, Microsoft and the Azure platform, it's a very strategic platform for us. So Microsoft is one of our great partners. But especially for the solution and the digital coworker I showed you, we did a request for proposal because we were going to do something new. So we were purposefully looking for a partner that would be there along the way, setting up something new, something that was not completely there yet. And this is what we call craftsmanship. So we're really looking for that engineering mindset to make it a success. And that's what we found in EPAM. So both from their experience, they have set up platforms in a very reliable way, but they were also committed to making it a success. So of course there is planning and requirements lists, but these were not the priority. It was about having adoption in the organization, making it a success, and we just agreed to co-create together till we would reach that level of success we were jointly looking for. And in this example, that went very fruitful.
Good, yeah. I do think it's something worth thinking about again as we're all on the journey. Partners are incredible in terms of also replicable ways in which to implement GenAI. A lot of partners will have very clear frameworks, as you will have in McKinsey and others. And I think the other piece that they play a massive role is in the actual internal adoption and helping with the governance and getting it set up so that it can be sustainable. So I do think partnerships are really important as we think about the future. So look, as we kind of come to a conclusion, I suppose I'd love to get a few thoughts on some of the lessons learned. So I might go back to you, Remko. So when you think about the last 12, 18 months, and we're talking about trying to share real life examples, what are a few of the lessons learned that you could share that might help others on their journey?
I think the biggest lesson learned is not to try and reinvent the wheel yourself. So I think that's one. So use your partners. So I think that's something which brought us quite far, but also probably could have accelerated us a bit further. So I think that's one. And two is make sure that you don't think too big. So also small use cases in the hands of a content manager or in the hands of a business analyst can already derive a lot of value. And I think that we are talking about big ROI projects. Make it small because big things are very easy to get off the ground and require funding. So I think the inspiration part with GenAI, the true inspirational part, wow, it can do this, has such a tremendous power that can help accelerating. So don't wait with the big use cases. Start immediately with small stuff.
Yeah, bit by bit, create the roadmap. Yeah. And Yannic, from your side.
Okay, I'm a techie guy, so I'm going to give a bit of a techie answer. But what I've really experienced is that it's so key to think of your data foundation and your integration strategy. So in these kind of applications, I see data really as the blood, and then the integrations as the veins through which the blood has to flow.
Nice.
And it simply doesn't work to bring all data together in one place, trying to solve it that way, because it's not cost effective, it's not economic. But by replicating data, having it in multiple locations, you also create other problems. So by having a really keen strategy on which data origins where and how to tap into that data, that will really enable you to then deliver solutions, train models, do all kinds of innovative things that create the value, but your foundation needs to be in place.
Yeah, it's such a good point, and it's one of the things that when we're doing envisioning sessions with customers, it's the one thing that they end up getting stuck on. It is like there is no point in going forward if you don't have clean data, if you don't have it in a way that you can index it and tag it, because otherwise you're going to run into multiple downstream problems. So I think, yeah, it's good to have a techie up here. And Baldo, from your perspective, lessons learned, or maybe lessons that your customers are learning.
Yeah. I would say there are a few. There are two that I think come very strongly to mind. One of them is about the interplay between traditional AI and generative AI, and about how important it is that we don't just go out there with a hammer looking for a nail, but that we know what is the nail that we really want to tackle, and then we develop the solution that is tailored to that. And that may actually be a mixture of GenAI with rule-based, or it may be something else, but start with the end in mind rather than with the means to the end. And the other one, which is a little bit of a complement to what Remko was touching on, right? Of like start small, but start, right? I would say something that we are also coming to realize over the last year is that, many clients wanted to talk to us about GenAI, what are the options, what are the possibilities, what is it that we can do with it. And at the end of the day, they also had the urge to try things out and just to test and experiment, right? What we are also seeing is that they are coming back now to us to think through what could this mean end to end. Like, if it's actually, I think it's helpful to find specific use cases where you can draw value from, because those can help make GenAI be self-funded. You generate some return and generate excitement, and that's really helpful. But at the end of the day, like, the level of ambition that we are observing is the potential of like AI and GenAI is like it goes like orders of magnitudes about that. But you need to think about like your business processes from the beginning to the end, and that is really tough, and it can actually rock some of the foundations on how some companies work. But it's where we are actually also seeing our clients move towards.
Good. And if there was one thing, so if we just think about I always think when you come to these panels, what's your one key takeaway? Maybe Remko, back to you. If there was one key takeaway that you would suggest for people who are either starting on this journey or maybe, dealing with some of the more complex elements of it from your experience, what might that be?
Yeah, that is a tough question. I would say, I think follow the three paths. Think about buy, think about build, think about use. Make it for yourself simple. Try to cut away the noise or the complexity or the hyped situations. So I think that would be for me key to keep it simple and to get into action.
Build, buy, use. Easy to remember. Yannic.
Give air to innovation. So you can literally, especially in a leadership position, you can give the air for innovation. If you provide your employees, your colleagues, the opportunity to innovate, to do trainings, to play around with new technologies, new ideas will come up. It's then up to the organization to filter out the best ideas from the good ideas. But if you give air to your organization to innovate, you will have many good ideas.
I love that. And I know it's something we're also trying to do, like just even having some dedicated time for people to learn. I think we underestimate how much there is to learn, and some people are really excited by that and want to grab onto it. Others might see it as a little bit of a chore, so it's also going to be an interesting journey for people. But I think making sure there's some dedicated time, and cross-functionally as well, so people can learn from each other. And Baldo, one thing from you, any final words of wisdom for people to consider?
I could go with be bold, like raise your ambition and go for it. And then, of course, you will need to set up all the necessary guardrails around it, but like don't shortchange yourself up from the beginning, because that, if you aspire to get there, it's like, okay, you may get there, but if you aspire to get there, you will always end up lower, right? So be bold, raise your aspiration.
That is definitely something I've read in many places these days, which is the bolder the companies are these days are the ones that will get the most reward. So maybe if we just wrap up with a few key takeaways, if we can move to the final slide. I don't know if it's there,
Maybe
but anyway. Oh yeah, click away. Perfect. I got good teamwork. So yeah, look, just to wrap up, everybody, first of all, a big thank you to the three of you for joining, and I think it's really nice to get the different perspectives from both consultancy through to implementation and just to share with everybody. I think a few things that I would just wrap up on. First of all, start somewhere. Just get started. Think about how you want to come up with your use cases, how you're going to make decisions on that. Are you going to identify them based on persona, based on function, based on industry, if you're in something that's across industry, but just get started. I think also we need to be very mindful of the differentiation between GenAI, which is relatively new in all of our work on language models, and the broader AI, of which there are so many solutions and has been around for quite a while, but certainly thinking about the two of those. I think making sure you've got your governance in place, thinking about who you need to be around that table. You need to have your legal colleagues, your HR colleagues, your finance colleagues. Decisions are being made primarily in the boardroom, but also with input from people on the ground for use cases. So really think about that governance model. Think about your data. How can you get your data clean and in a way where it can be used to the best of its advantage, also in a secure environment? And then I think just in terms of adoption and measuring impact, what I've definitely seen, and I think what we've also said today is, end users are really important because they will be the ones to come with creative use cases of how we can actually use GenAI. I think it's also really important to have a leadership vision set out. And often I see in customers, a lot of the teams on the ground are saying, where are we going? Where is this going to go? What does this look like in a year or 2 years? And so making sure that they're part of the journey, but also having that leadership vision is important. And then, of course, measurement, making sure you're clear on what is the return on investment we're looking for. Are we going after OpEx? Are we going after productivity? Are we going after our team's health? What is it? And making sure you bring that in. And I think underlying all of this, there's ethics and there's skilling. So really thinking about a sustainable skilling model that can help our teams, our people, and the industry to become better as we all evolve. So everybody, I hope that was useful for you just to hear a little bit of different perspectives. Thank you all again for coming, and wishing you a really good rest of the conference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.